Hola, mis amores. What up, my Afro Latinxers? Today I'm back with another video, and today I am going to be talking about, or better yet, debunking this myth that Dominican culture is under attack. I am going to be debunking this myth that Dominican culture is under attack. All right. So the reason why I am doing this video is because I have been hearing this discourse that Dominican culture is under attack in many TikTok videos, in some YouTube lives from Dominican nationalists, and I posed a question to some of these people. How is Dominican culture under attack? Well, I sat here and did a lot of research for y'all. I looked up a whole bunch of scholarly articles, and if you don't know what a scholarly article is, it's an article backed up by many scholars, meaning that it is not just one person's opinion, okay? It's many persons' opinions together. It's also research. So you can either take it or leave it. One of the funniest things that I find some Dominicans get mad at is when you bring resources, scholarly resources, and they want to not only discredit you, but also those resources that are backed up by many other people. Again, it is totally up to you whether you want to believe it or not. I cannot force you to. However, I want to show you that this phrase is Dominican culture under attack uh, basically is a fallacy, and maybe it needs a little bit of rewording so that it actually makes some sense. So, without further ado, Um, I want to start off by posing the question, is Dominican culture under attack? Okay. Now, before we understand if this is really happening, we need to first understand what is culture. Okay. So culture is a complex whole, which includes knowledge, beliefs, arts, laws, morals, customs, and any other um, capability and habits acquired by man as a member of society. So, meaning society or people in that certain society, meaning Dominican society, are the people who decide what culture is, what will be part of their culture. Okay, so with that understanding and who decides what culture is and who what culture is and what is going to be Dominican culture, it is decided by the people. All right. Now, I think most times when we think about culture, we think about the surface culture, right? The surface culture is only 10% of what makes up Dominican culture, right? The 10% surface culture refers to the tangible norms that are often associated with certain cultures. These are norms that we are aware of and see. For example, the types of food, clothing, music, art, language, and dialect, or history, folk tale, um, attributed to certain culture or countries. So, for example, us, Dominican culture, is we know the 10% surface culture as our festivals like Carnaval and our Independence Day, our music, bachata, merengue. We speak Spanish in the Dominican Republic. Los tres golpes, ¿verdad? Mangú, salami, con cebollas y huevo frito, queso frito, right? Eh, arroz habichuela con un pollo guisado y maduro y un repollito ahí en el lado, right? Those are are the foods that we attribute back to DR. Also, sports like baseball. Baseball is um is something that Dominican people have decided that that is ours, right? And the fact that we practice Catholicism in the Dominican Republic is also a big part of our culture. And these are just the surface of what makes up our culture. And this is normally what people end up talking about when we think about culture. Okay. Now, when you're thinking about that, right? Thinking about that surface culture. You see, before we get to the deep culture, when you're thinking about surface culture and Dominicans relating to surface culture all the time, and kind of not understanding like the big, broad um, concept of culture, um, we have to go back to this question now. Is Dominican culture under attack when you're just looking at surface culture? Okay. So, again, this is the question. Is Dominican culture under attack? So, normally when I hear this, oh, Dominican culture is under attack, I normally hear this. I normally hear there's an anti-Dominican movement. I also hear there's an erasure of Dominican culture. Well, let's first answer the main question. Is Dominican culture being under attack? Now, let's look at the word attack, okay? Attack, take aggressive action against a place or enemy forces with weapons or army forces, typically in a battle of war. Okay? So, if that is the definition of attack, when you think about the question, is Dominican culture under attack? Is anybody coming to Dominican people, putting guns to Dominican people's heads and saying, you cannot practice your culture, you cannot eat mango, you cannot play baseball, you cannot dance bachata and merengue, you cannot be a Catholic, um, you cannot practice carnaval, right? You cannot celebrate carnaval. You cannot celebrate Independence Day. Are people putting guns to our heads? Is there an army in the Dominican Republic, an outside army in the Dominican Republic telling us that we can't do these things? Yes or no? Y'all could put it in the comments. All right. I say no, right? So if you want to say, is Dominican culture under attack? That is a fallacy. That is inaccurate because using the word attack is is inaccurate, right? You cannot say it's under attack when literally that is not happening, right? The meaning of the word attack means by force, right? With weapons, armed forces. And that is not happening, okay? So right there, I have debunked it, debunked the question, okay? Now, when people say there's an anti-Dominican movement or an erasure of Dominican culture, now this we can still play with, right? Because this all depends on what you consider to be Dominican culture, right? So if you and I'm gonna get more into this, right? I'm gonna get more into these two points. So just keep it in your mind. What do Dominicans consider as culture? Okay, so we already spoke about the surface level of culture. We haven't spoken about the deep level of culture. But let's keep going. So what you may not know about culture is that all cultures change through time. No culture is stagnant. However, much cultures are basically conservative in that they tend to resist change. Okay? Some resist more than others by enacting laws for the preservation and protection of traditional cultural patterns while putting up barriers to alien ideas and things. Okay, and again, if you need to know where I'm getting all this information, everything is cited. Okay, so basically, Dominican culture is not under attack. Dominican culture is changing. It is changing. And some people might say that it is because Haitians are coming into the country or because Dominican Americans are imposing their ideologies onto the Dominican culture. Mind you, there are the biggest Dominican immigration or migration is in the US. So yes, when Dominicans migrate to the US, the culture is going to change because it is different here in the US. However, right, it is not under attack by Dominican Americans because we are literally not putting guns to anybody's heads or bringing in armies to tell people to change the culture. Okay, so again, it's a fallacy, right? Um, so how is the Dominican Republic trying to stop the culture from changing? Okay, so when you look at enacting laws, right? In 2004, there was a law that was put in place, the General Law of Migration, Law 285-04, which was put in place um, to control how many people have birthright citizenship, basically. So let's say you migrated to the DR and then you had kids. Once this law was put in place, you were not able to have that right. You don't have that right, right? You go to DR and your children are born there. Now they cannot be Dominican citizens, right? Now this law was put in specifically to target Dominican of Haitian descent. Okay, and this is not just me talking out my ass. This is from resources. Okay, you can look it up. I'm going to tag all of the sources at the end of the presentation. Okay, it specifically targeted Haitians. Okay, now that is a form of institutionalized racism. A lot of people like to say, well, the Dominican Republic doesn't have institutionalized racism. There isn't any racism. It's because you don't understand what racism is or how it looks like. So I have put the definition up here for you, okay? It's alongside a chart of how many people immigrate into the Dominican Republic. Okay, so institutionalized racism, also known as systemic racism, is a form of racism that is embedded as normal practice within society or an organization. It can lead to such issues as discrimination in criminal justice, employment, housing, healthcare, political power, and education, among all other issues. It is important to recognize the harmful effects that institutionalized racism can have on people, especially students in schools where it is predominant. Okay? So this means that there 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 this means that it's not that there's a law that says we are going to discriminate against black people in the DR. Just like here in the US, there is no law that says that, right? Institutionalized racism is a normal practice within society, all right? Meaning people in society have these racist ideologies and enact them within these systems like healthcare, housing, employment, political power, education, and among other issues. All right. People enact them. Even though there are laws there to protect people from institutionalized racism, it's the people that enact them. Okay. People's beliefs and ideologies. So when you look at all the people that come into the Dominican Republic, this is a list. Also, it's cited, so you can go look at it. We all know that Haitians are the ones that migrate to the DR the most, right? And people might say, well, is because they're coming over here and they're taking all of the jobs, and there isn't enough jobs for everybody, um, which is a fallacy, is another lie. Why? Because Haitians come over to the Dominican Republic to do jobs that Dominicans don't want to do, that Dominican people do not want to take, right? And the fear is that there's a labor shortage, when in reality, Dominicans don't want to do those jobs, point blank, period. And there is no evidence for a negative impact on real wages in how, however weak, right? Meaning there's no evidence out there showing that Haitians are taking Dominican jobs. All right, so that is debunked. All right, so when you think about why is it that this law was targeted towards Haitians? Because if anything, let's go back. If anything, you should be worried about people from the US, people from Spain, people from China, all all of these people who come with high educations, who can literally take Dominican jobs away from the people who live there because they come with the education, right? Sometimes some of these people don't come with education, but the people that do, like people from the US, they come with an education. The people from China, they come with an education. They come with money. So these are the people that you should be more scared of than Haitians. But the law was specifically targeted towards Haitians. And people are going to say that it's because we don't have enough space, but the reality is that only 12% of people leave out of the Dominican Republic. And the amount of people that migrate into the DR is only 0.4%. 4%. So meaning there's more people leaving than people coming in. So it's not that there isn't any space, and it's not that there isn't any jobs. So why is it that they targeted Haitians? My opinion is because there is a deeply rooted anti-blackness within the culture. Okay, let's keep going. So, is Dominican culture under attack? No, it is not under attack. Okay, because within societies, processes leading to change include inventions and cultural losses. Inventions may be either technological or ideological. Within a society, processes that result in resistance to change include habits and the integration of cultural traits. Okay, so this fallacy that Dominican culture is under attack is not true. What you can say is that Dominican culture is changing. Why? Because culture changes over time, point blank, period. And I'm still going to come back to anti-Dominican movement and erasure of Dominican culture. Okay, so no, it is not change. It is not under attack. It is changing because culture changes through time. That's it. You cannot, unless you want to stop time, you cannot stop culture from changing. So we go back. I showed you a law, right, that is systemically racist towards Haitians for no valid reason. There's no reason why. In my opinion, is only because they don't want black people or people who are more black than Dominicans in the Dominican Republic. All right. Now, what are the traditional cultural patterns? Okay. And alien ideas and things. Okay. So, traditional cultural patterns can correlate to cultural stereotypes. So, cultural stereotypes generaliza- are when generalizations become stereotypes, when all members of a group are categorized as having the same characteristics. Stereotypes can be linked to any type of cultural membership, such as nationality, religion, gender, race, or age. Also, stereotypes may be positive or negative. Okay? So these are, again, let's go back real quick. These are the traditional cultural patterns which correlate or equal to cultural stereotypes. All right? What are some cultural stereotypes? So we're back to our chart. What is culture? Okay? What are some cultural stereotypes? So when we're looking at our surface culture, remember, these are all cultural stereotypes. We are known for bachata and merengue and for speaking un español muy único, a very different Spanish. We're known for our mangu. Those are all of our stereotypes, and these are all positive stereotypes that we have. We're known for baseball, right? We are also known for being Catholic for the most part. However, that is changing, right? And all of these things are positive, but the the religion part is it's kind of like there's a positive side and a negative side. And I'm going to say there's a positive side because any religious belief that people have, there's always some positivity that comes from it. However, when you think about how Catholicism was imposed onto the indigenous people, the Africans that came here, that can carry a very negative stereotype or connotation towards the religion. And we can see that um, as time has progressed, the practice of Catholicism in the whole entire Latin America has decreased, where other religions are becoming part of our country. They might not be the norm, like being Protestant or being Muslim. These might not be the norm, right? Or be the stereotyped religions. However, they are changing the dynamics of what religious practices are being practiced in the Dominican Republic. Now, is this being forced upon the Dominican culture? You could put the answer below and you let me know. However, I don't think that. I think this is just part of the natural change of of having technology in the DR, having different people migrate to the DR. This is just what happens when time goes by with culture. Okay. So another narrative I wanted to put out there is had this TikTok discussion about the Independence Day of the Dominican Republic. Okay. Now, when you look up Dominican Dominican Independence Day, they are going to tell you the celebration of their independence from Haiti. All right. That you Google it, that's the one, that's their main one. It's not their independence from Spain. Okay. And to me, that's a little weird because Spain ruled over the DR way longer than Haiti did. All right. And not only that, we in the DR we call it Independence Day from Haiti, but Restoration Day from Spain. And some people will say, well, no, it's also called Restoration of Independence from Spain. Even if it was called Restoration of Independence from Spain, which, like, on the calendar, that's not what it says in the DR, or like if you look up down here in this resource, the embassy.gov, it's called Restoration Day, right? But even if it was called Independence Day, how can we compare these two? How can we compare these two? But before we compare, I want you to understand the linguistic power of words, right? So in the DR, they call it the Dominican Restoration Day, right? Restoration means the act of restoring, renewal, revival, or reestablishing, okay? Reestablishing what? The state or fact of being restored. A return of something to a formal, original, normal, or unimpaired condition. Okay? That is what they celebrate from Spain. Independence. Now let's read what independence means. Not subject to control by others, self governing, not affiliated with no longer, controlling until an independent um, bookstore, not requiring or relying on something else, not contingent, an independent conclusion. All right, so separate, not in control. Do you see the difference between these two words? Which one to you sounds like they had a worse experience with, Haiti or Spain? In my opinion, it sounds like Spain just gave over their power back to the Dominican Republic. And I know the common argument is like, no, well, it's called Restoration Day because we had several independence from Spain. But even if you call it Restoration Independence Day, how can you compare these two? Okay? How can you compare these two? How can you compare what the Spanish did to the island of Hispaniola compared to what the Haitians did? The Spanish ruled 370, about give or take 370 years, imported Africans, grasped people from another continent and their countries, brought them over to the island of Hispaniola, killed over 3 million people, indigenous and African, right? Because of the voyage on your way to here, a lot of Africans were going to die. A lot of indigenous people died because of the sicknesses, okay? Wiped out native languages, all of native languages. All you see are traces in our Spanish, correct? And almost all religions, right? Now you still see some Santeria, right, which is African religion, and the indigenous and African people opposed colonization. Okay, now let's compare it to Haiti. Haiti ruled 22 years, killed roughly 3,000 to 5,000 Dominicans, and 80% of Dominicans and Haitians supported the unification while opposing French taxes. Okay, which means that the mindset of the people here was completely different from the mindset of the people here. Okay? So you cannot possibly call this independence when the people wanted to be unified. Okay? They wanted to be unified. They didn't feel like Haitians were trying to do all of this that the Spanish did. All right. And yes, there were government, there was the Haitian government who was pushed by the French to do some cruel things. Nobody is denying that, right? However, you cannot compare what the Haitians did to what the Spanish did. And I say this because a lot of people use this argument to say, well, they did the same thing, that's why it's our independence. At the end of the day, the fact that you can compare these two so that you can justify it as the Dominican independence is tied back to anti-blackness. Because there are surfacing resources now saying that Dominican elites have changed the word from separation to independence. All right. And even if at first, even if it, let's say it was independence, right? How can you call it independence as if it is on an equal level to the Spanish and then turn around and say Spanish Restoration? All right. So, and when people look at these names, these celebrations, it has a very, very different effect on the minds of 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 the Dominican person, okay? On the psychological mind of the Dominican person, okay? Because anytime you bring up the Spanish, I can most likely tell you that a Dominican nationalist will be like, oh well, the Haitians did this and the Haitians did that and the Haitian did, and to me, that is rooted in anti-blackness. Point blank period. Okay? So again, this this holiday is starting to look like a negative cultural stereotype because it is rooted in anti-blackness. Whether you believe it or not, it's rooted in anti-blackness. And personally, for me, it makes more sense for the Dominican Republic to celebrate their Independence Day from Spain rather than Haiti. And another argument people use as well is well, they'll say, well, the Spanish are not in are not here. They're not bothering us and blah 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 blah. But the Haitians are. Well, hello, you live on the same island. Like, there's one island. Like you, and it's not that they're bothering you. There's been so many years of relationships with between the Haitians and the Dominicans, so you can't expect for the Haitians to be like, "Oh, I'm gonna get out of here now," right? Um, so it, it's not a good argument when you say, "Well, the Haitians are always in our stuff." You share, like we share an island, like the Spanish don't share an island with us. However, to say that the Spanish have no effect on you right now is a lie, because if you understand trauma, generational trauma from colonization, and I'll show you examples of that, you'll know that even though they're not physically there or have their hands in policies and stuff like that, what they did still lives in the minds of the Dominican people. Okay, so now let's look at deep culture. Deep culture is what we don't often talk about. And these are all the things you see in deep culture and people don't really talk about. And these are the harder things for people to talk about because here's where you find more of the negative stereotypes. And I'll show you. So let's talk about the attitude towards age, child rearing, problem solving, and emotional responses. So in the Dominican Republic, the elders are highly respected. All right. And some positive things that come from that is that family sticks together no matter what. Right. Your family will throw it down for you no matter what. Right. However, there are some negative stereotypes that come with having this high respect for elders. Right. Elders are always elders are always seen as correct, even when they're wrong. So elders can go around um, saying the most ruthless things to you, the most racist things to you, and you just need to be, you have to be there, stay shut, and not say anything, right? Um, Elders have a hard time apologizing, right? Because they grew up, um, we're in a culture where we have a culture where um, because elders are always right, there's no apologizing, point blank, period. Okay. Also, children are not viewed as highly or respected. Okay. Um, and that's just a negative stereotype for us because adults hold an authoritarian power over children, which means favoring or enforcing strict uh, obedience to authority, especially that of the government, at the expense of personal freedom. Okay, which means that you need to do what your parents say. There's no like back talk, right? Because elders are respected, you need to do what they say, point blank, period. And again, I think that this is a very negative stereotype because we have such a authoritarian way of parenting, um, and very bad ways of like apologizing and admitting to what is wrong. Um, we have one of the highest rates of child marriages in the Dominican Republic, because what normally happens is that a lot of people who are in poverty end up forcing their children to get married so that they don't have to take care of their children, and their children can be taken care of by a man. And what happens is that there is a lot of young girls, younger than 15, getting married off. There is a lot of uh, teen pregnancy. And what that does is continues the cycle of poverty, because when these girls are forced to get married, they can't go to school anymore and they have to take care of their kids. And a lot of the time, what happens is that the men don't really take care of these ladies. So these women are left alone. These young girls are left alone to take care of their kids. All right. And normally they're forced because remember again, elders are highly respected. And if your mother tells you that you need to get married to this man because she can't take care of you, you have to do it. All right. Even though it's wrong, you have to do it. Okay. Is this changing? Yes, it is changing, because the Dominican Republic just um, recently signed into law that this is no more allowed. However, if you think about systemic problems, right? And in this sense, this is um, this is ageism, okay? This is systemic ageism. It doesn't necessarily have to be in the law in order for this not to happen. Meaning now they have a law, but because people still think this way, remember, systemic meaning society puts this into practice. The ideologies put this into practice. Okay? So with that said, people need to change the way they think. People need to take these negative stereotypes, cultural stereotypes, and leave them alone. Put them away. Bury them. All right? Talk about them, admit to them, and stop doing it, because they're becoming part of our culture, whether you like it or not, because people talk about it. And when people talk about it, and when a lot of people accept this as a norm, when women and men are marrying off their children, that becomes a part of our norm, and it becomes part of our culture, and it's a stereotype, a cultural stereotype. Another cultural stereotype that we have, which is a negative one, is el machismo. All right. Now, originally, el machismo was not always seen as negative. Machismo was seen as, something for men to be able. It was seen as men being able to take care of their wives and provide for them, um, and just take care of them. But machismo has taken it to a whole nother level, where social behaviors and patterns in which the Latino male exhibits an overbearing attitude to anyone in a position he perceives as inferior his, to his, demanding complete subservience. Okay? So men look at women as inferior. All right? Machismo is usually used to define with a negative connotation. All right? And remember, it hasn't always had that negative connotation, but the way men are just wanting to dominate and control women and make it part of the culture, it has been demonized and it's become a negative stereotype. And as a result, Dominican Republic has one of the highest femicides problems in Latin America. And that directly is correlated to the machismo that we have in the Dominican Republic. Okay? This is a negative stereotype that negatively impacts our culture and makes us look bad. All right? So it's whether, again, we admit to it, realize it, and we throw it away. Meaning men need to stop being like that. And nobody's telling men that you can't go out and work and your woman can't stay home and cook. And nobody's saying that. I'm just saying that you can't come home and beat your wife just because your wife didn't cook for you or just because she didn't clean for you. You can't beat your wife. Like, it doesn't work like that. Or you can't withhold money from her just because she didn't cook for you one night or two. Like, that is machismo, which negatively affects women in the Dominican Republic, and not only women, but the whole culture in general. And those are the kinds of things that we need to move away from. Okay. Now, I think this is the last one I'm gonna get to. So Dominican beauty standards stereotypes. Okay, so there are some positive and negatives of the Dominican beauty standard. One of the positive things that the salon has given the DR is ownership and working opportunities for women in the Dominican Republic, which allows them to take care of themselves and not depend on a man. All right. And nobody's saying that women don't need men. I'm just saying that when women have the opportunity to take care of themselves, they're less likely to fall into a situation where they will be beat by a man that is so machista. Okay. And these beauty standards have also given women the title of the best hair blowout. Okay. Meaning, if you come here to the US, like people normally go to Dominicans to get their hair blowed out because they want that pin straight blowed out hair. Right. However, this can also be seen as a negative because they blow out hair so well. There has been times where Dominicans have discriminated against women with curly hair like me, putting in like relaxers in the shampoo, which damage curly hair. Okay, and that is a negative stereotype that has been growing here, at least in the US, because a lot more women now are going natural here in the US. And when Dominican women do that, it makes it seem like they do not like curly hair, right? They would rather deal with curly hair that's less kinky and curly. Another negative thing is the pressure to fix your hair to fit into the Eurocentric beauty standards. Even though in the Dominican Republic there is a growing movement of natural hair, thanks to technology and the growing um, global market of or and connections that the U.S. has with the Dominican Republic and the Dominican Republic has with the rest of the world, um, there is a growing natural hair movement. But again, that's culture. That's culture. Um, how women, let's say 20 years ago, it was not seen to have your curly hair. And now, because of technology and because of the interconnectivity that we have, women are feeling more confident to wear their hair curly. And because of the people that are coming into the DR wearing their hair curly, Ms. Rizos, who opened up her salon in the Dominican Republic, that part, the beauty standards are changing. Okay, but that's through time. It's not like somebody said, "Oh, I'm gonna put a gun to your head, and I'm gonna bring army in here, if you don't stop straightening your hair." Nobody like it's not under attack. Okay, and all of these aspects that I've been talking about, these negative and positive stereotypes, all tie back to the anti-Dominican movement and erasure of Dominican culture. Okay, so if you believe that there is an anti-Dominican movement, then you probably don't believe that there is a beauty standard or there was a beauty standard in the Dominican Republic, or you don't believe that the celebration of the Independence Day from Haiti isn't anti-Black, or you probably believe that um, child marriage isn't a problem or femicide isn't a problem. If you believe that there is an anti-Dominican movement, then you believe in all those negative stereotypes. You believe that none of those stereotypes should be changed. So I personally don't think that there's an anti-Dominican movement or erasure of Dominican culture. I just believe that things are changing for the better, and you could take it or leave it. Another negative aspect of the beauty standards is the internalized trauma of Afro hair. Again, there is a lot of women now wearing their Afro hair. However, there's still women who cannot fathom leaving their house with their hair curly. That they're so like they don't like their hair, their curly hair. They don't know how to treat their hair or take care of their hair. And that's why they never wear their hair outside curly. I'm not saying that women shouldn't straighten their hair. I'm just saying that if you cannot leave your house with your hair like this curly in a fro, if you're so scared, or you say, ay no, yo tengo ese pelo, yo me veo fea, o es un pajón feo, then you have internalized racism and you hate your hair, your curly hair, which God gave you. Okay? Finally, there is still hair discrimination in schools, workplaces, clubs, and bars, even though there's laws to protect women from this and men from this discrimination in the DR. This still happens, and that is part of institutionalized racism. Okay? Hair discrimination is directly tied to institutionalized racism because, again, if you remember the definition of institutionalized racism, it is enacted by societal practices and institutions. School is an institution, workplace is an institution, clubs and bars are part of institutions. And if people, part of society, are saying you cannot come to school or workplace or bar because your hair is curly, then that's part of institutionalized racism because hair, curly Afro hair, is generally tied back to blackness and Africanness, anything black. Um, and because society has made it normal to demonize the Afro hair, that makes it institutionalized racism. And remember, it doesn't have to be written in the law to make it institutionalized racism. People just need to believe in the ideologies of pelo malo to say you cannot come to work like that. You cannot come to school like that. You cannot come to a bar or a club like that. And again, I'm not saying that this happens everywhere, but it's still happening today in the Dominican Republic. So now that we went through um, subculture and deep culture and the stereotypes, okay, and alien ideas such as the thought that we should not um, celebrate Haitian Independence Day, but instead celebrate Spanish Independence Day, or the thought that alien ideas or thought that um, we shouldn't go around saying pelo malo, right? And we should accept our curly hair. All of those ideas are traditional cultural patterns um, are not traditional culture. All of those ideas are not traditional cultural patterns. However, they are slowly starting to become and change towards that, right? This, like the fact that women want to wear their hair curly, or like young girls do not want to get married young, or that um like men shouldn't be beating women, or that religion, Catholicism, isn't going to be always the religion that is being practiced in the Dominican Republic, or that maybe one day you're not going to celebrate Haitian Independence Day. All of those are alien ideas, um, that are changing Dominican culture, but it is not anti-Dominican to want to enact those things. And it is not erasing Dominican culture. Because if you see those aspects, wearing your hair straight, wearing your hair in a fro, not celebrating Haitian Independence Day, Catholicism not being the major religion celebrated, um, even though it still is, right? Not accepting femicide and infant marriage, that is not erasing. Like, if you don't, like, not accepting those things is not erasing Dominican culture, unless you want to have those stereotypes as cultures, right? Unless you want to uphold European beauty standards, unless you want femicide to continue, unless you want child infancy to continue, unless you want anti-blackness to continue, then you can say that is being erased, right? However, if you reject those things, then no, Dominican culture is not being erased, because that is not Dominican culture. Like the fact that we celebrate independence from Haiti is the most anti-black thing, and we want to keep that as culture. You want to keep an anti-black celebration as culture is beyond me, right? So again, is Dominican culture under attack? No, it is not under attack. There isn't an anti-Dominican movement. Unless you believe in these negative stereotypes, then that's true to you. Same thing for the erasure of Dominican culture. If you believe in these negative stereotypes, then that's true to you, not to me or anybody who really believes that the culture is changing, but changing for the better. So, y'all, I have debunked this for y'all. I hope you found this helpful. Here are my citations. If you have anything to add them below in the comments. And I hope this helps to calm y'all nerves on this idea that Dominican culture is being erased, because in reality, it is not. Um, and here's all the proof to it. It is just changing because of time, progression, immigration, and technology. So, hope you like this video. Give me a thumbs up, leave a comment below. I hope you subscribe and turn on your post notifications. Adios!